This is factoring type 2. What is factoring type 1? What did we call it? Greatest common factoring. We cannot forget number 1 is GCF factoring. And remember, we are always supposed to try that first. All right? Now, let's talk about what we just did. If I gave you this, and I said expand it, what would you do? You would expand it. How would you personally expand it, Jacob? You would use the shortcut. Why? Because it's faster, but why am I allowed to use the shortcut here? Because it starts with X, or Y, or Q, or whatever, right? Because it starts like this, you can do the shortcut. And the shortcut is X squared plus, it's plus because these are both plus. What do I do to get this term? Add them. 4 plus 6. X plus, what do I do to get this term? 4 times 6. And your answer is X squared plus 10X plus 24. Let's pretend I never taught you the shortcut. What do? You do FOIL. What's FOIL here? First, X squared. Outside, plus 6X. Inside, plus 4X. Last, plus 24. And I get X squared plus 10X plus 24. Everyone agrees, right? It's easy peasy. Okay, now we have to think if binomial times a binomial equals what? What do I get when I multiply two binomials? What do we call the 3 one? A trinomial. Then that must mean that if I factor a trinomial, what does it break down into? Factor a trinomial equals 2 binomials. Now, what did we find out yesterday? Is everything factorable? No. So you got to be aware that sometimes you're not going to be able to factor. Okay? Now, I've already shown you why. I've already told you that it's the reverse of distribution. And we're already at the end of April. So I can't spend as much time as I would like to spend on why this works. So I'm going to do something that I really hate doing. I am going to teach you how instead of why. And I'm going to do that for this whole unit because it's faster. All right? So here is what you do. When you are faced with this kind of trinomial, please notice this method is only for x squared plus blah, or minus. Okay? It only works for x or y or q. It has to be by itself. Everybody cool? All right. Now, since this is a trinomial, and since it starts with just x, if it factors, it's going to break down into two binomials, isn't it? And we know those two binomials have to start with what letter? Why? Because this is x squared. And I know I need x and x. Because when I do first, I need x squared, yes? Now, what do I know about this number? What do these two blanks have to add up to? They have to add to 7, and they have to multiply to what? Negative 18. What are the factors of negative 18? 9 and 2, right? 1 and 18 will not get me to 7 in any way, will it? 9 and 2 can get me to 7, though. How? positive 9 minus 2, correct? Does everybody understand that? I have two blanks, and I know that positive 9 and minus 2 will make 7, yes? So what do I put in the blanks? Positive 9 and minus 7. And then I check. Is positive 9 and minus 2. Is 9 minus 2 7? Yes. Is 9 times 2 negative 18? So did I do it right? Yes, I did. See how easy it is? So look at this one. I need what for my first term? X's. Excellent. This term is negative. So what does that mean I need for signs in here? One's got to be positive and one's got to be negative to make a negative, doesn't it? Okay. And I need numbers that multiply to what? What kind of 8? Negative 8 and add to what? Negative 2. Is it 1 and 8? No. Is it 2 and 4? Yes. How will 2 and 4 get me to negative 2? Positive 2, negative 4. Now, somebody always says, Mr. Myers, I want to write it this way. Go ahead. All right? Because order doesn't matter. Is negative 4 plus 2 negative 2? Is negative 4 times positive 2 negative 8? So do I have it right? Easy peasy. Look at the next question. What's different? Well, I still need two brackets. I still need x and x. This is positive, but what's happening over here? So what are the two signs I need? They have to both be negative, don't they? Because two negatives will multiply to make a positive and add to make a negative, right? What do I need to multiply to? 35. What do I need to add to? Negative 12. Is it 1 and 35? No. What's the only other factors of 35? 7 and 5. Since they're both the same sign, does it matter what I put where? Nope. Minus 7, minus 5. Then I check. Is negative 7 take away 5 negative 12? Yep. Is negative 7 times negative 5 positive 35? Yep. So is there any reason to ever hand me in a piece of paper with the wrong answers on it in this unit? Do you ever need to? No. Why? Because you can always check it. And if it's wrong, what are you going to do? Fix it. Uh-oh. Mr. Myers changed the letters, because sometimes you guys actually tell me that makes a difference. Well, I can't do it when it's an A. What does this one have to be? A and A instead of X and X. Brilliant. What do I have to multiply to? Negative 20. What do I have to add to? Positive 12. Is it 1 and 20? Is it 2 and 10? Can 2 and 10 get me to 12? Yes. So let's check. Since that's negative, I must have a positive and a negative, correct? Will 10 and 2 work? No. Will 4 and 5 make 12? So if nothing works, what do we get to say about this trinomial? Can't be factored. Does not factor. Everybody jumps on 10 and 2, right? Because, 12, 10 and 2, yeah. And I watch kids. I give this exact question on the test, and the kids hand it back to me with all this work on it. And they try to make this work. Math isn't like that. You can't make it do what you want it to. No matter how hard you try, 7 and 4 is never anything but 11. No matter how hard you try, you will never find two numbers that work here. Therefore, it doesn't factor. Everybody cool? All right. So you guys look at the next one, because you should be able to do the next one by yourself. You should not need me, and it should take about 10 seconds. Go. This is letter E. I'll start the 10-second timer now. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Done. What does it have to be? How do you get half your marks without even have to think? Y and Y. That's negative. So what do the signs have to be? Plus and minus. You're halfway there. What do I got to multiply to? Negative 14. What do I got to add to? Negative 5. What is it? Negative 7, positive 2. You've already put the plus and minus, so I got to just put the numbers in. Is there anybody that cannot do this? Remember, I normally show you why I don't have time anymore. Is there anybody in the room that cannot do this? Every single person in the room can divide and add, yes? By the 10th grade? Okay. Look at F and tell me what's weird. There's a 4 in front of it. Do we know what to do when there's a 4? We have only learned what to do when there's nothing. But isn't this the second kind of factoring we've learned? And what did I tell you to try first? Greatest common factor. Well, the 4 is what we need to get rid of. So let's see if we can divide everything by 4. Let's try it. Since I've put a 4 here, what's going outside the brackets? 4. What stays in? 4 divided by 4, well, that's x squared. Does 20 divide by 4? To get what? What kind of 5? Negative 5. X. Does 56 divide by 4? I don't know. I can't do that in my head. I don't know my 4 times table past 12. So what do? Go to your calculator. If you are bad at division, what should you do? Go to your calculator. Just like if you got to drill a hole through steel, you don't try and use your teeth. You get the tool to do the job. So you find out that it is negative 14. Hey, wait a minute. Doesn't that look exactly like that? So now can we factor it? What is it going to be? Can I forget about 4 here? Can I forget 4? It's yes or no. It's a guess. No, of course not, because 4 is part of this final answer, isn't it? So 4 stays there, and what does this become? X plus 2, x minus 7. Everybody cool? Okay, so I am doing something that I hate to do. I am telling you to arrive at a math problem and look at it. Okay, it looks like this, so I'm going down this path. Now it looks like this, so I'm going down this path. It's not the way I like to do math. It's not the best way to do math, but it's the quickest way to do math. So look at this and tell me what don't you like. Which number specifically? 10. How do we get rid of that 10? Divide everything by 10. 10 goes out here. What stays in? X squared plus 8x plus 12. Can't forget about the 10. That looks like a possible trinomial I can factor, right? What would it look like if I could factor it? It would be, what would be the first term? X and x. What would be the signs? plus and plus, because everything here is positive. And now I need to multiply to what? 12 and add to what? What is it? 6 and 2, and I'm done. Everybody good? Look at H, and once again, tell me what's weird. It's a negative 4. Do we ever like negatives? Do we? No. We want to get rid of negative 4. Well, how do I get rid of it? I divide by negative 4. What goes out front now? Negative 4. And what does that negative do to all these signs? Changes them. So this becomes positive t squared. What does this become? Positive 4t. And what does this become? Minus 32. Does this now look like something we might be able to factor? Let's see. Negative 4. If it's going to work, it's going to be what and what? T and t. That's negative, so what's the sign's going to be? Plus and minus. And I need numbers that multiply to 32 and add to what? 4. Is it 1 and 32? Is it 2 and 16? Is it 4 and 8? Which one is the positive? Yes, it does. Why does 8 have to be positive? When I add them together, I need 8 minus 4 to get positive 4. Does everybody see that? Up until now, order hasn't mattered, has it? And you would pick it up when you checked it over, right? Now, Emma just said, and I'm not picking on Emma.
I thought it would be like negative 4 and 8.
I'm getting, oh, I see what you mean. Yes. Okay, my mistake. I misunderstood you. If Emma had thought what I thought she thought and wanted to do this, t minus t plus 4 and t minus 8, if she checked it, she would have seen that that was wrong, right? Because 4 minus 8 is not positive 4, it's negative 4, isn't it? So this one is wrong, this one is right. Is everybody good? Now listen to me. None of you are going to, but I'm going to try it anyway. You think that you can do this. So you will practice 5 more questions, and then you'll start talking to the person beside you. And you'll think you have it mastered. Kind of like the first time you stepped on a snowboard, 5 minutes after you were on it, you mastered it, right? The first time you sat in a car, the first time you parallel parked, you never needed to practice it again, did you? Right? First day you rang in something at McDonald's, you didn't screw it up, did you? You don't need to practice on that cash register anymore, because once you can punch in medium fries, you can punch in a complicated order, can't you? I know you can't, because I order food at McDonald's all the time. And I get it right. Never! No offense. Practice. Turn the page over. Look at I. Tell me what's ugly. That's on your page. It's not on a turn page for you. What is weird about I? Jacob. It's out of order. Can you put it in order? Are you allowed to move it around? Sure. What would the first thing be if this was in the order we liked? It would be negative d squared minus 5d minus 24, yes? Now what don't we like? I don't like a negative. How do I get rid of this negative? I divide by what that factor is. What's the number that we never write? 1. So if I divide by negative 1, what's coming out front? Negative 1. And what stays in the brackets? What do all those signs do? D squared plus 5d plus 24, yes? Everyone agree? Okay. What am I doing with that now? Try it. What do you find happens? You can't, can you? Why? Because it looks like you can, right? What numbers do you want to use? 8 and 3, right? 8 and 3 will make 5. But with these both positive, can I do that? No. Well, that's kind of weird. Well, maybe I can do this backwards. Since the D is at the back, can I try writing it this way? D and D, there's my D squared, yes? But it's negative D squared, so what would these signs have to be? Positive and negative, okay. And then L says 8 and 5. Well, what if I did negative 8, or 8 and 3, L said. Negative 8 and positive 3. Does that work? Negative 8 times 3 is negative 24. Good stuff. Negative 8 times negative D is positive 8D, yes? 3D, oh, it didn't work, did it? All right, well, wait a minute. Maybe positive 8 and negative 3. 8 and 3 is negative 24. Negative 8D minus 3D. Oh, it still doesn't work. Do you see what I did there? I did what I see you guys do all the time. You get set in your mind. It's got to be 5 and 3. And then you start messing around. Are there any numbers that work here? So that's the only thing you can do. Do you understand? Everybody with me? Don't try to make the question do something that it isn't able to do. All right, look at J. Tell me what's different. There's a B squared. Well, when there's a V squared, what is it? What do I got to put? V and V. Well, now there's just a B squared, so what do I got to put? B and B. And then do you think anything else changes? Of course not. That's negative. So what is it? Negative, positive, and I need numbers that multiply to what? 20 and add to what? 19. Which is it? 20 and 1, isn't it? I need positive 19, so it must be negative 1b plus 20b. Everybody got it? So you guys do K. Because K is exactly the same as J. You should have no problem doing it. You can do almost all the work before you even have to think. What's going here? X and X. What's going here? Y and Y. What's going in the middle for signs? Plus and minus, because that's negative, right? Okay, what do I got to multiply to? Negative 28. What do I got to add to? 12. Is it 1 and 28? Is it 2 and 14? Yes. How? It's 14, take away 2, makes 12. Done. What's weird about L? Have we done anything that looks like that? No, the first term's always been squared, yes? But we know how to get rid of something we don't like. What do? So if I divide by b, does that go into everything? So what goes on the outside of the brackets? B, what stays in the brackets? A squared minus AB minus 20b squared. Oh, all right. B, bracket, 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 bracket. What's the first one? A and A. What's the last one? B and B. And I need numbers that multiply to what? Negative 20 and add to what? Negative 1. Is it 1 and 20? Is it 2 and 10? Is it 4 and 5? Yes, because 4 and 5 will make 1. How? Positive 4, negative 5, because 4 minus 5 is negative 1. Everybody cool? All right, now I'm going to be very mean to you. I'm not going to show you how to do M, because you already know. Even though it looks different, figure it out. Now you guys have 3 more problems that aren't on my screen. I'll be writing them up by hand. I think you have 3 more. Yep. Okay, is that a trinomial? Does it look similar to what we've been dealing with? Starts with an x, but it's x to the 4 instead of x squared. When it was x squared, we used x and x. What are we going to use for x to the 4th? X squared, x squared. Is x times x squared times x squared, x to the 4th? Okay. Then I need, that's positive, but that's negative. So what signs do I need? Negative, negative, and I need to multiply to what? 50 and add to what? 15. Is it 50 and 1? Is it 2 and 25?
No.
Is it 5 and 10? Yes. 5, 10. Done. But Mr. Myers, it looks different. It doesn't matter. Some days I wear different ties. I still teach math. What's weird about n? It's a 0 in the middle. So I need to multiply to what? Negative 9 and add to what? 0. What is it? Is it 1 and 9? It's 3 and 3. Because 9 has a square root, so it's x plus 3, x minus 3, yes? What about O? It's got to be x and x. It's got to be, that's negative, so it's got to be plus and minus. You guys are smart kids. 9 was 3. What's 625 going to be? 25. What do you notice about 9 and 625? They're perfect squares. Now have a look at P. What do you notice about the last term in P? It's a perfect square. When these were perfect squares, I just put the square root, right? So what do you think's going there? Square root. But this is positive and this is positive. So what does that make both of these? Positive. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Nothing to it. The hardest thing is choosing those numbers that multiply to whatever and add to whatever. But if you know your times tables, you're in business, right? I want to tell you guys a quick story. 7 years ago, this math was in grade 9. And I was teaching it to a grade 9 class. And there was a kid in my grade 9 class that was almost, if he really thought about it, he was almost smart enough to bark. Understand what I'm saying? He was not a very intelligent young man. We started doing factoring. I showed him this once, like for you guys back, like letter B. And I said, I got to multiply this and add to this. And he would say 7 and 4. And I'd look at him like, oh, good guess, guy. Go to the next question. He'd look at just the trinomial. He wouldn't even write anything down. -2 and 6. And the smart kids in the class were like, is it 1 and 12? And this guy, who had done nothing right the entire year, could look at a trinomial and say, -4 and 7. 6 and 9. 13 and -5. Immediately. It was the weirdest thing. Couldn't do anything else in math after that either. But owned this unit. Could do it perfectly in his sleep. It was very weird. Because it was almost creepy. I was like, dude got my notes somehow. There is no way. But then I'd make stuff up out of my head. And I'd finish writing it. I'd do this, like x squared plus 7x plus 12. And right there, before I even finished the 12, he'd be 3 and 4. It was creepy. But then you know what? He refused to write it down. Never actually handed in any work. What are you going to do? All right, you guys got page 111 and 112. Go. Now remember, you may need GCF and you may need trinomial. And you may need both. Dun, dun, dun. Okay? Cool. Of course. Any other questions? Excellent. In a perfect world, at 12:45, I would be writing the right answers behind me, and you would all be going tick, 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 tick. And I would say any question, you would all be like, no, what do you think we are, dumb? In a perfect world. Let's see what happens at 12:45.